Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video. We've just literally been about a mile down the coast there at the Singing Sands and the Port Ellen Lighthouse, and we just thought it's worth stopping at this old historical graveyard. It's a graveyard with one of the most beautiful views in the whole world here. Just look at that, it's stunning. And yeah, we're going to have a wee look in here and see if there's any cool little nuggets of history or old gravestones with some cool stuff on them. In fact, it looks like there's actually an old chapel here, so we'll go and have a look at it first, because we do like to have a look at old chapels in this channel, folks. I'm seeing some of these graves, it's 1885 and stuff like that, so it is a pretty old grave site, this. And look at this over here. This must be the old kirk. You can see the old stone walls for it. I like to mix it up like this on the channel, folks, so we have a bit of everything. Abandoned buildings, old kirks and old graveyards, even sandy beaches and places like that. And just think of the history here. Let's see if I can see a year on some of these old graves. This is so cool, folks. I'm getting flies in my eyes here. 1902. So that gives you an idea, but there's even older graves here, which is incredible. Yeah, look at this. I'm not sure what all this has been here. What's this been, folks? Some sort of like cut out bit in the wall. And look at the old ironwork. Wow. I better get a photo of this from here. So like this kirk would have been around probably from older times than all the stones that lie within it. Because at one time this would have been where they would have sat inside. Oh, here's a real bit of history, folks. I've just found a Norman grave down here, which is ancient Scottish history. But you can tell it's a Norman grave by his battle outfit and the fact he's got this massive sword in his left hand. Look at it, there's the tip of the sword here. Look at that, folks, wow. That's ancient. We actually saw this up at one of the kirks earlier in this Isle of Adventure, probably like 10 episodes ago now or something. There was Norman graves and I didn't even know that's what it was at the time, but you may recognise it with that very same carving. So just seeing this grave alone makes it worth visiting this grave site, because this grave here probably outdates most of the other ones in this graveyard. There is some others like buried under the grass, but to see that one in such good condition, it is impressive. Look at this old cast iron work on these. So cool, folks. And then even under my feet here, it's just like graves upon graves upon graves. I love seeing all the old stonework. You can just imagine maybe a candle or something burning away in the corner. Back in the day, the local people would have been coming in for the sea and for the hills. Maybe weekly or monthly they would have come here. Who even knows, folks, but yeah. What a cool old kirk. Let's have a walk around this side of it. The blue seas which lie all around the coast here is just incredible. Just makes the whole place look so beautiful. Wow. See, there's like graves on the wall there, gravestones, but also these here, and I think these are old graves and then these have been kind of put on top of them. And look at this little bit down here. There's like another little side room to the kirk. Let's have a look and see. Oh, there is, look, ancient gravestones here. Some of these older ones don't have anything carved into them because they're so old. And sometimes old graves don't have anything carved into them as well, because you had to pay per word or per letter as to what you wanted on them. So people back then couldn't afford a lot of writing. That's why often you just see short little sentences on them. I'll try and see if I can see a year on this. The thing is with graves like this too, like when they're facing up the way, the weather kind of degrades them so much, it's really hard to see what the year says on them. Look at this, it's like almost, they've been, maybe in the Victorian times or something, they've been fixed a little bit, maybe raised up out of the ground. so that they're not destroyed and lost forever. Wow! Look at this old grave, folks. Look, it's had a shield or a coat of arms there, and then look, a skull and crossbones. You can see the skull on this one's facing the side. There's the eye socket, and then the jaw. Oh, that's so cool, folks. Ancient history right here in the gravesite. It's massive. And then there's like another bit there which is maybe younger, and then there's another bit there which must be where the people still get buried to this day. There's like 3 separate little graveyards here. And yeah, I'm into like finding the oldest ones, like that Norman grave there. It's so interesting to see. Just imagine the time the person was buried there. Look at this, folks, that one there looks really old, and then so does this one. Wow. I'm really trying to see some old dates here, I'm not seeing it. I can just see the outline of some names. Maybe though, like years and years ago, they didn't often put the date on them, if they were limited as to how much like writing they could put on the gravestones. Oh look here, this is a separate little bit again. I've not been in this bit yet. It's a shame because there's gravestones like all over the place here. Let's have a look. See, 1981, this one must have been moved from somewhere, because that's one of the youngest graves that I've seen, but yeah, it's right here at the door of this place. But this is why I've come in. Take a look at this, folks. Let's see what we've got here. Oh look, what's that? Age 77. What's that say? Look, 1823. So this grave here is from 1823, which is quite impressive. And the way it's been carved, look, it's made to look like a scroll with a coily end on it. And then the seal, I think it's meant to look like one of the seals that you had on the old scroll with the wax. Pretty cool when you see stuff like that carved into stone. And you can just imagine before, like, all these graves were all around it, most likely this chapel stood here with just like a couple of graves around it. And then the more time that passed, when Christianity and stuff was here on the island, the graveyard would have just expanded out, and then one day this must have gotten abandoned. Probably there's like a newer church or chapel somewhere that this took over from. Yeah, and that's where everybody now will be. Like, if there's any services or funerals, that's where they'll be held. And then I think more important people from the community are the people that's buried inside places like this. Just the same way that some people are buried in like Westminster Abbey and stuff like that. Important people for the local communities were often buried inside the old chapels. So that's pretty cool. Look, this is like an old headstone here on its side. It's almost coffin shaped. No, unless it's been like a lid of a stone coffin or something at one time. Yeah, wow. This one here looks pretty old. Sometimes depending on the style of stone, this looks actually like a cement stone. We have seen this a couple of times here on the island. You can see they've just scratched the name into the cement. Margaret Bell, 1934. The interesting thing as well, it's like every grave is different. Every graveyard's got its own little bit of history of like the local area. It's often like a snapshot in time, and you can just imagine how it was when these people were alive and they were living around here on the islands. The whole place must have been like a different atmosphere back then. Tourists like me coming would have probably been very rare. And then see these ones. Sometimes stones like this were in graveyards when people couldn't afford to have a big fancy carved stone. But also sometimes these smaller stones was if like a kid or a baby died, they would just get a little stone like that. Sometimes like a baby might die before it even had a name, so nothing was actually written on some of the stones. And look, it's just all the way around here there's just stones in the ground. Look, this one's just got 2 letters, RH. That's the only thing that's carved in the whole tomb. I think sometimes with these old stone graves, if you were to like lift the lid, I'm pretty sure there's a whole stone coffin under there with a body in it. If it's the same as the ones at the Priory anyway at Rastenneth, that's what they're like. But these might be different. It's maybe just literally they used to have the gravestones flat with about 6 foot of soil below. I'm not actually sure, folks, but let's have a look at this one. This looks interesting as well. Oh look, here's an old one, folks. 1726. So just think that's like the early 1700s. They've used a bit of slate for the grave. Probably in the early 1700s. Like this place might have still had a roof on it, and that just shows you this probably dates back way back. Maybe even to like earlier than the 1500s this could be. There could have been a wee kirk here back at 1200 or 1100 even. This is how ancient the history is around here in the islands. Probably way back then. They wouldn't have had headstones. But yeah, it's like the depth of the history can just blow your mind at a place like this sometimes. And like I say, on the channel we love mixing it up. Sometimes it's a lighthouse, sometimes it's a castle, sometimes it's a beach, and then sometimes it's a historical cemetery. And it really gives you an aspect of the whole island, from the living all the way to the dead, and this is where they end up, places like this. The only visit they get off is probably from the rabbits when they burrow down in. Yeah, I was waiting to see if I could see a date on this one. Sometimes on the camera, oh there we go folks, 1708. So this here is a 1708 grave. I don't know if that comes out on the camera, folks. I'm pretty sure it's 1708 and not 1108. Can you just imagine? That's some real ancient history right here once again on the channel. Sometimes places like this were actually slightly restored in the Victorian era to look old, or to keep their old look. That's how you see the red bricks like along the side of here and the cemented parts. Some of these gravestones seem to have like a double headstone on them. They're both on one plinth. But once again, it's hard to see the date. I love the old calligraphy on these with the curly old letters. So interesting to see. But like I say, when they're facing up to the sky like that, all the rain and the wind and the frost, it just chips away at the stone like a little bit every year, till eventually you can't even read them. And that's why I often videoing the odd like older one, more interesting one, it can save a little bit of history. Like some of these ones just look so old. It's hard to even see a date. Sometimes on the camera you can see it easier than with the naked eye. Looks like this person's name was Cameron. Quite a popular like Scottish name that. So it looks like Alexander MacDougall, distiller at Ardbeg, is buried here or something. Just trying to see. I'm not sure what it's actually saying there, folks. 1852 though. This is an interesting grave here, folks, because these two people here drowned at Port Ellen Lighthouse, the father and son. The father was 53 and the son was 17. And that's the Port Ellen Lighthouse out there that we visited a few videos ago. You can go back and have a look at it. Sadly, these people have met their maker there by drowning, unfortunately. And then it appears that the rest of the family have been killed in action. 1915, age 21, interred in Maple Corpse Cemetery. Zillebeck, where's that? Belgium, look. I can't pronounce a lot of these places. Ypres it's called or something. And then the other brother was Lance Corporal. He was killed in action as well. And he's actually buried in High Wood near Montauban in France. Which is incredible. And then another one's died in infancy. So this is a really interesting grave tomb. Which is such a shame. It looks like the mother and daughter were the only two left in this family after all their sad losses there. Between the sad drownings over at the lighthouse and then the war, you often find a sad story like that in a grave. It's connected to the local area. I can see an aeroplane coming into land at the Islay airport in the distance. If you want to see what that looks like, you can go back and watch my aeroplane land at the Islay airport video, folks.
And then see under the inspection of Duncan McCraig innkeeper.
There we go, folks. All these gates have got, all these graveyards have got gates, I mean, because of the local sheep population, which if you leave gates open, they go in, they eat the grass, they chew everything up, they probably knock over gravestones and stuff too. So aye, it's important if you ever open the gate to always close it behind you. Anyway folks, that's been a cool bit of ancient Scottish history right there. All the way back to the Norman era, where we saw that Norman grave. That was the coolest thing in there, I would say. But thanks very much for watching. I'll end this one here. Tune in again very soon for the next Isle adventure.